How's it going, Charger fans? Welcome back to another Los Angeles Chargers injury update with Jamieson. You can find me at Chargers Medical on Twitter. And this is a bye week, so we got not all that much to talk about. One big thing to talk about as we get into it is Justin Herbert's finger injury. But I did want to touch on a few other things. I did want to take a quick look at the Chargers on IR at the bye, just to see where we are in the season and what we can expect from those players moving forward. We'll focus most of the episode on Justin Herbert's finger injury, not only what we know up to this point, but also what could potentially its impact could be on playing time and playing style moving forward. And finally, we'll take a look and talk about potential post-bye returns from the Chargers players that were on the PUP list. That's most namely Jaylen Gon and Otito Ogbonnia. So without further ado, let's quickly get into it. The Chargers on IR the bye. Unfortunately, the one that we know is not coming back at any point this season is Mike Williams. He's out for the year with an ACL tear. The other two players are a little bit more interesting. Now, this hasn't really been talked about that much, but I just want to point it out here that JT Woods was actually put on the non-football illness list as well, which is the same list that Corey Linsley was put on. It essentially functions the same as injured reserve. These players, once they're placed on this list, need to miss a minimum of 4 games. So that means that for both Corey Linsley and JT Woods, the earliest they could potentially come back to play is week 9. And that would be 4 games missed for both of them. Now, we know that Corey Linsley's issue is related to non-emergent heart tissue. We don't know anything more than we did a couple of weeks ago when he was put on IR, so I don't want to speculate again. Hopefully we do see him back at some point this season, and hopefully sooner rather than later. Although Will Clapp filled in admirably against the Raiders, and so hopefully he can continue that moving forward. JT Woods obviously is a more kind of his missing the last game contributed to this really, loss of depth at safety. The Chargers were missing Derwin James, Alohi Goen, and JT Woods. So it's number 1, 2, 3 of your safeties. And the substitutes, AJ Finley and Dean Marlowe, played pretty well. No crazy plays. Devontae Adams is going to get his. He's an incredible wide receiver. But overall, the Chargers were able to hold them for most of the game. So we also don't know anything about this JT Woods illness. Staley was asked about it and did not comment on it. So it will remain to be seen whether this is, again, something that hopefully will resolve within the 4 weeks and we'll see him back at close to 100% come week 9. It also could be something completely unrelated that's more serious and also could, take him out for the rest of the season. Both of those players, Corey and J2, we just really don't know that much about. So hopefully we get more information coming off the bye going into week 6. I'm not optimistic. So it's likely we probably won't hear anything about these players until we get close to week 9, and then we'll have a better idea from questions from the team and things like that, whether we're going to actually see them come back or not. So just wanted to comment on those 2 players as well. But overall, the loss of Mike Williams aside, the Chargers are looking okay in terms of an injured reserve standpoint. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Justin Herbert's finger fracture. So this occurred after he threw that interception. He was going to block, I believe it was Max Crosby, in an attempt to try to, help with a tackle. Justin Herbert's, trying to be a hero after the interception. It looked from the video that his middle finger was then caught in Max Crosby's face masks. You can actually see in the photo here, it does have a little deformity. It looks like it's a little bit, the distal part of the finger phalanx is a little bit off to the deviated slightly. There are other people who noted that they saw blood from the finger. You can't really see it in this image here, which also suggests that he suffered some type of nail bed injury and potentially what's called an open fracture, in which case the fracture of the bone as it's breaking actually cuts through the skin and exposes that bone to the world. So that's a more serious injury. And we don't know exactly what occurred, but it's on that spectrum of severity. Now, Justin Herbert was out for the drive, and it looked like Easton Stick was going to come in, and then he was Easton Stick was actually, Herbert came out of the tent basically right as the offense was going back on the field and was able to play. But we really don't know the extent of his injury. This is what his brace looked like after. In the initial drive, he didn't have a glove on, but he moved on to this glove here. You can see that the splint is still within the glove and it's taped over that middle finger. The most fortunate news of all this is that, it's his non-throwing hand. He's not expected to miss any time. That doesn't mean that he's not going to be affected by this in any way. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about. The nail bed injury is interesting because those are, need to often be repaired. Your fingernail underneath is this because of the germinal matrix. It's very important for the nail growth. It's actually adherent to the nail. But when you injure that, especially when you have a fracture in that area, you often need to remove the nail bed in order to repair that. And so it's likely that Justin Herbert had his fingernail removed or repaired so that they could repair the nail bed prior to placing him in that splint. And so usually they put the fingernail back on, although it will not continue to grow. New one will continue to grow out, but they put that old nail to keep the nail bed open, to allow the new one to grow. So likely he's going to be missing a fingernail at some point on that middle finger during the course of the season. Hopefully he didn't do any damage to the germinal matrix around the nail bed, so it'll continue to grow back. I don't think so, but who knows? And then the other thing was that he was diagnosed with a fracture, according to Daniel Poppage article, which it's again unclear exactly where that fracture occurred. Based on the deviation of his finger here and based on kind of how he's splinted, it looks like it's a phalanx fracture, just the distal phalanx here, which is more minor, but it could potentially involve any part of that middle finger all the way down to the metacarpal joint. But we really don't know. There has been some speculation that, especially if this was an open injury, that Justin Herbert might have undergone an operation to stabilize this. I will say that there's not been any reporting on that, and it's unclear whether that occurred or not. So I don't want to, start any rumors out there. I just want to clarify that if it was an open injury and there was a fracture or a dislocation significant enough, you would have to have surgery. He would still, with the bye, likely not miss any time because that would give the incision enough time to heal. But if it's kind of more status quo injury, they were able to repair the nail, but the finger fracture was not dislocated enough, then they could splint it, allow him to heal without surgical intervention, in which case he would again play in week 6. In terms of its effect on him moving forward, it's a little bit more unclear about whether he'll be able to snap under center. He's going to have time for that finger to feel a little bit better and then get under center and practice with Will Clapp taking snaps and protecting that finger. So he didn't do it at all in week 4. I don't think that means that he won't do it at all in week 6. The other caveat to this is Justin Herbert and the Chargers spend the 10th most time in shotgun in the league. I think they take about 80% of their snaps in shotgun. So, but that 20% of snaps under center is important for the run game and play action. So I do think that with the added time and with the ability to splint it however Justin Herbert wants, that he will be able to take at least some snaps under center and not have to go completely from the gun. So we will just have to see kind of what he looks like in practice in week 6. So that was a lot. The takeaways from this: he will not miss any time. He's not expected to miss any time. He may or may not have undergone surgery. We don't know. We'll probably find out more information next week about whether they had to fix it or wash it out or clean it. But I don't expect so. And with a brace, I don't think it'll affect his play in terms of where he can play on the field and moving forward. So we'll just have to see. But really interesting injury and uncommon. Usually, they tell quarterbacks to not try to be heroes. Justin Herbert's a big guy. He was trying to help out after the interception, so it's understandable. But when you're getting paid that money, and you got to understand that if you get hurt, the Chargers could have significant long-term issues. And so I'll leave that analysis to other individuals, but we'll focus on his injury. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on Jaylen Gon and Tito Ogbonnia. So Staley, these are 2 players who are eligible now to return from the PUP list. Jaylen Gon in particular, there's been more discussion on. Staley would not comment about whether they would open his 21-day return window after the bye. We'll have to see. So come week 6, come next Wednesday, if we see that he is practicing and they have opened his window, it could be that he is incorporated and ready to play, although the Chargers did add Simi Fehoko, fellow Stanford alumni, to the active roster. So I think there's just a lot of uncertainty with both these players, to be honest. Jaylen Guyton, he's been seeing working and running more. I think he's pretty close to coming back, but the Chargers aren't really putting, and the coaching staff aren't really putting a lot of positive words about like, yes, we will see him in week 6. And in terms of Otito, we really haven't heard anything about his practice ability, about how much he's been working, or whether he's been going to be able to return from the PUP list. I believe that after 6 weeks on there, then the Chargers might have to like put them on for the rest of the season. So I expect we will hear about both of these players' updates when we go back to practice next week. They both potentially could return to practice. It's that will day, because once you open up that 21-day window, if they do not return to the active roster within those 21 days, they are permanently on IR for the rest of that season and cannot be activated, as far as I understand. So big decisions coming up, but we all know Jaylen Guyton, when healthy, can really take the top off of defense. Otito was having a great season. He's a really big presence in the center of that defensive line. So we'll just have to monitor that. So we'll see where that goes moving forward. All right, that was the quick bye-week injury update for the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, my name is Jamieson. You can find me at Chargers Medical on Twitter. If you have any questions about anything I mentioned here, leave it in the comments below. I'll try to put answers there when I see them, or hit me up on Twitter. I'm happy to answer them. We'll see. The Chargers, have a well-deserved bye week. They're 2-2 going into the rest of the season. Hopefully, with a fully or a more healthy team coming up out of this bye week against the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs moving forward. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the support, guys. And lastly, bolt up.